We are entering the holiday shopping season, and clearly poor customer service is causing brands to lose out on a lot of sales. So what would you recommend to CX leaders who are looking for quick solutions to turn it around for this upcoming holiday season?
Quick solutions. I don't know if this is a quick solution or not, but I just understand how important it is for almost like the onboarding experience of the employees that work in store, right? And if you can't get it done onboarding, maybe it's like a consistent education employees. But I think done are the days, and I don't think it's always been like this, but done are the days where you just throw a worker in, they know exactly like how to handle customer service. I think there needs to be a lot more education centered around probably the brand, what type of customer experience you want to provide, and then the education of that. And that's ongoing as well too, like I said. But again, I don't know if that's a quick thing for the holidays coming up here, but I think one other thing I remember probably 2 or 3 quarters ago, Starbucks had an earnings report, and it wasn't that good, and they actually said it wasn't that good because of long lines. They were understaffed at the end of the day, and so obviously there's been a new CEO in place, but they've hired a little bit more, and so I think you can always be better prepared and make sure that you have employees in the store and enough employees in the store to handle all your customers' needs.
Yeah, training's really important. I started my career as a customer service rep in like a call center. You cannot just throw someone onto the sales floor and hope that they're going to do a great job. So definitely training's really, really important.
One other thing, just at the Shop Talk where I was at, it was someone on the executive team from Fabletics. It was about employee training, and the majority of their employee training that they were saying was all video based. And I think it created more engagement that they've seen educating their employees, and so I think there's a lot that you can do there.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned about staffing up with like long lines, because the article talked about how ineffective queue management makes up 19% of all of the negative feedback like about these retailers. And in the real world, you have to wait in line for a cashier or even a self-checkout machine like at the grocery store. But if you shop online, you can go at your own pace, and as soon as you're ready, boom, you can check out. So I'm wondering, do you think that e-commerce has changed our perspectives as consumers about what's acceptable for that in-store customer service experience?
I think you have to look at it from different generations. I think from Gen Z that probably started more online, that's the expectation. So now to go to in-store, they're measuring how that is performing versus what they only really know, which is online. I think if you were to ask maybe Gen X or millennials, like then we know a little bit about in-store for sure. And I think that expectation is not based on what is happening online, but it's more based on just that maybe it was a lot easier back in the day. There's probably more staffing than there is now because obviously you have to provide the in-store experience and the e-commerce experience, and so that's more employees to bring into your business. So that would be probably my answer of like what that expectation is like today.
Yeah, I feel like when I go into an in-store, retail experience, there's all of these cashier stations, and the only time I see them fully staffed is the holiday season. And most of the rest of the year, there's a longer line because they're not staffed up appropriately.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, I think that's where in-store is going more and more. And I don't know if that's consumers pushing that or if it's the stores pushing that, which is, listen, come into the store, but the expectation of buying something right away is probably not as high as what you would actually think. It's more about just, like, understanding what's out there, touch and feel. And again, it depends on what every single store is selling. But I do think it's, like, less of, like, okay, we need the cashiers. It's more of like we have the employees just to make sure you can see everything and then buy online.
I feel like in a lot of the higher end malls, you'll see stores that are more like experience centers, like Tesla, for example. And I feel like I see that a lot with like Peloton. I know they have experience centers. They want you to come in and test out the product. You may or may not purchase right then and there, but they're using the retail store for people to experience the product, not necessarily make that purchase. And it'll be interesting to see when that starts to trickle down to, mid-tier brands, and when does that stop, rather than like, super consumer goods where you're going to buy it in store because it doesn't make sense and then go home. Like clothing or something. If you like it and it fits, you should just buy it if it's in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with. I mean, again, like I wish I had numbers here, but I do think it starts with efficiency, and as that's been the name of the game for the last few years. I think there's efficiency when it comes to making sure. Well, from the logistics standpoint, you could probably get the product to someone's house in now a day or two. So if that's now okay, and people are okay with waiting 24 to 48 hours. From the margins perspective, okay, just not don't have as much product in the store, but have more that you can ship out, and so have that experience in the store, and then you have to wait 24, 48 hours, and you save money that way as a business, and you can still provide an okay customer experience. But yeah, and I think one other thing, there's a Wayfair store. They claim to fame in Chicagoland by me. I think it's like 20 minutes outside the city, but there's a Wayfair store out here, and it's that same thing where you get to walk around. It's similar to an IKEA where you get like to go all around. They have different sections, but it's all about seeing the items in place, touch and feel, and then if you like something, more than likely you can order that and it's delivered to your house in 24 to 48 hours. So that seems that I don't want to say that's the trend now, but that's happening more likely.
So that's kind of a good segue into this question. What role do you think that technology and digital tools can play in supporting better customer service in the physical retail environment? Because clearly people do still want to go and experience things in person.
Yeah. What I believe is happening is that, like, let's first look at the online experience and what's a really great online experience. I believe a really great online experience is that you're searching throughout and you have the ability to understand the product really well of what you're looking at. And you can understand that obviously from what's on the web page, maybe dealing with the chat bot or the AI bot to ask questions more about the product itself, the service itself that you're selling. And all the information is right there for you to make the best decision that you need to make. That experience now is transcending to the offline world, which is that, to use that Wayfair example, when I walked in the store there were a whole bunch of, you would think like, oh, these are sales reps, but they work more customer service, customer support, product specialists. So as you were walking around, you had questions about certain things. Yeah, there was a QR code that you can scan it, but then you can also talk to the representative there. He knew everything about the products on the floor. And so you can kind of go back and forth and ask any sort of question that you want about the product and get that information you need, from simple things from like, hey, how long would it take to get this to my house, to, what does this go really well with, if it's a design question and so forth. And so I think that's what we really need to push forward to, is this education of the in-store employees really knowing about their products and services that they're selling, and it goes back to the onboarding experience, but it's a continuation. And then again, where does AI fit into this? I mean, I really believe that AI fits into it of like, hey, if there is a handheld machine, it could be an iPhone, iPad that has that AI capabilities, where if the rep doesn't know, it can get the answers right away to what the person is asking.
Right, and that way people don't have to feel like they have to memorize everything. They can use that as an extension of their knowledge, or as a check, for whatever it is. So that's really neat. The opinion article that we came across blames Gen Z workers for providing this subpar customer service, saying that their attitude is too laid back and the lack of social skills leave customers unsure of what to do next in a transaction. We've been talking about how teams can use, like at the Wayfair experience, they can use an iPad to kind of supplement. So I'm wondering, given your experiences, what would you recommend that CX leaders do to address this issue? Where should they kind of focus their resources first?
I think, so I have two answers to this, and they're fairly high level. I think that it goes back to the mission of the company, actually. I think there are a lot of services and companies out there that don't amplify why they're in business and why that employees should work at this business. I think we've lost that a little bit. And if you think of some successful companies out there, there's a lot of employees that then want to work at that business. And again, like when I frequent a Starbucks and sometimes that I talk to the employees there, they're really like excited to work at Starbucks, one, because of some of the benefits that they receive, but they also maybe love coffee, or they love just interacting with people or being part of the community as well. And those are just a few examples. Again, that's my bias and my opinion from just my conversations, but there's this like why of working for a certain company, and I think it starts there of like you have to attract employees that want to work for your product or service first. And then I think if you have that mission, you have that why, you can start attracting certain employees. And then it's like you have to put more investment into that education, to that onboarding experience, to teaching these individuals of what does good experience, customer experience look like. Because I mean, a lot of us don't really know. And if you do think about like Gen Z, again, growing up on devices, it didn't start with the one-on-one interactions first, like maybe previous generations. And again, like this is completely biased, but in my experience, like it was my father that taught me how to work at a service job because he worked at a service job. But now I work at a tech job, and so I can't teach the son to like here's how you would do a service job. But what I can do is understand what other resources out there, and I think other leaders should take that into consideration and learn about and teach them about the onboarding experience and the customer experience that is right to provide. So I would say those two things. And I know that's fairly high level, but I do think it's super important to have that mission and have that why to attract employees too.
That makes a lot of sense. And you actually I think that answers my next question, because so much of it is about caring, right? I think there's a lot of talk about kind of entry-level service jobs as like lesser or lower, and they're not seen as something always to be prideful of, and they can be seen as just like a starter job or just like a way to earn money. But in other cultures, I know that it's not seen as lesser to have a service job, and so you take pride in your work, no matter what type of work you're doing. You're going to show up and do 110%, whether you are a cashier, whether you're the CEO, it doesn't matter. And, but if people have a passion for whatever product or service it is that the company is selling, that can help kind of bridge that gap. But if someone just has to get a job just to get a job, then, they may not have that like ability to connect deeply in the way that if you work somewhere that you are passionate about. Like if you love animals and you work at a pet store, you're going to be more engaged than if you work somewhere that you don't really like care about what they're selling, but it's just where you were hired. So
yeah, and I think just one of my first jobs was in the service sector, and it was at a bowling alley, and I was the guy that was like at the front desk, but also you would have bowling shoes, right? And then you would have to get the bowling shoes, and I was that guy you get bowling shoes from, or at least spraying the bowling shoes to make it clean again. That was like a mundane task, but I remember that it was an opportunity to like be a little like everyone was like, oh, this is disgusting. Like here, I'm getting someone else's shoes, and it was an opportunity to just like make it memorable, and like, oh, we really have to spray down that shoe, and people were laughing, or like, oh, like actually I have no idea what size it is. Okay, let's make this fun. And that's a very minor example, but I think it just goes back to like what you said of trying to understand how you can take something as simple as spraying shoes and making it a little more memorable, or taking more interest in that, because there's a lot more to it, and it's that human connection. Especially going back to in-store experiences, like it's all about conversations, it's all about making a memorable experience, and you can do that through multiple ways, but you have to not find the right people, but I think you have to teach them, and I think again that's really important in this.
I liked what you said about how Starbucks attracts their workers through great benefits, and probably helps a lot of people like coffee. That can be something that gets your brand on the radar for the right people that would be a great fit for your company, by offering whatever it is they have, their school benefits. I know they have great like part-time healthcare benefits, and consistently that name comes up because people want that, and there's an interest in coffee. It can just be a great way to get your name out there to increase your applicant pool of people that are going to show up and do a great job and go the extra mile, make spraying the shoes more fun, or taking care when they're crafting the latte, whatever it is, to make their work experience more memorable and make it better for the customer as well.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm really excited about like the future of founders and leaders, like one leading by example, but showing like what they really value and what they want their business to be like. Because again, like that, I think attracts the talent, and once you can identify that, then the branding around it is super important, right? Like, it's why the company exists, what does it do, and then what sort of emotions you want people to feel when they experience your brand. And if you can nail those two, and then I think then you're developing this environment that can attract certain people that you want to work for you, and then it's about educating them. So it's simple as that.
Yeah, and it's holistic. As you said, it's maybe not a quick fix for the 2024, shopping holiday season, but it's something to think about and lay the groundwork. And then 2025, maybe you start to see that kind of return then.
Yeah, exactly. So I just like that there is this balanced approach, and I think that coming out after Shop Talk, like I think all brands realize how important omni-channel is these days, and it's that you can't throw all your eggs in one basket right now. People are utilizing the in-store experience to then educate themselves with the e-commerce website, or they're educating themselves in the e-commerce website and then going in the store. Now it's more important than ever to provide that omni-channel great experience, and it starts with the mission, and then the emotions, and then can you then express that through your through your store, through the online experience, and so forth. And I guess that's the direction we're heading.